All right, let's see how that's working now. We tried to get it started, but it wasn't showing up, so we're going to try it again. I got a couple of people watching who are going to give me some, continue to give me some flags if there's any problems. But I think we should be up and running now. Thanks very much for coming to this webinar on OJS 3. It's great for us to give you a chance to take a look at some of the developments we've been working on and some of the new directions we're going with OJS. OJS 3 is a major upgrade from the 2 line, as you'll see when I take you through this. Let's see. What we're going to really concentrate on is to see some of the new features. We don't have enough time to go into a lot of depth on any of the things that are there. But if you do have questions as we're going through, I've activated a Q&A app on the side. You should be able to see that. You should be able to type in questions, and I'll answer those as best I can. But if after the webinar you've got questions, or if I didn't get a chance to answer your question, please post those to our community forum. It's at forum.pkp.sfu.ca. So if anything comes up after this, please post them in there, and we'll get back to you. My name's Kevin, and I'm with the Public Knowledge Project. I've been working with the development team on OJS 3 for the past couple of years, trying to develop something that is a whole new approach to how you've seen OJS in the past. And today's going to be a good opportunity to see what some of those changes are. And to get things going here, I'm going to share my screen, and hopefully you'll be able to see what I'm showing you here. All right, so that should have jumped over to my journal. Let me just reposition that a little bit. See everything? All right, you can see that out of the box, OJS 3 does look quite a bit different in the reader interface. We've made some changes here. Good, and I've got a note that the screen share is working. Thanks for that. Perfect. So you can see all of the elements that you'd expect to see in a reader interface. We've got the journal's title, of course. On the home page, we've got the table of contents for the current issue. If we go up to archives, we can see a list of our back issues. And under about, all of the information you'd expect to see there about the journal, as well as our policies, the editorial team, submission information, and contact information. So that's all still there. If we go down and look at the table of contents itself, we can click on the title to go to the article page. And we can see author information and affiliation. If the author had an ORCID ID, that can be displayed. The DOI is there, abstracts there. And then over on the other column, you can see we've got links to the Galley files. So we've got a PDF version, and I'll click on that. Hopefully this will show up for you on the screen share. And you can see the PDF opens up, as you'd expect. In the upper right, there's a download link. On the left, there's an arrow to take us back. And we've also put in a sample XML file to let you see what that can look like. We've added an XML galley. It's in JATS XML format, and we're using the eLife Lens viewer to display that content. And you can see it gives a very nice rendering of that XML content. We've got in the left panel, title, author, abstract, all the content is there. And then there's a summary on the right. And if we click on those, it'll take us to the different parts of the article. And if there were figures, we could jump down to figures, our references, and any final information. So it's a nice way to start to do some increasing experimenting with XML publishing using OJS. Take us back. Information about when it was published, some how to cite information, and other details about this article. I can also let you know that we're working with a graphic designer who is helping us develop an alternative theme for OJS 3 that will be available to everybody. It's going to provide opportunities for some continuous publishing if you wanted to experiment with that way of putting your articles out. So watch for that on our blog post. We'll be talking about that more very shortly. So let's take a look now at some of the additional features. I'm going to register just to give you a sense of what this would look like for a new user. One of the things you'll notice on the registration page is there's far fewer fields presented to the user. Some of the feedback we got from the community that sometimes authors or reviewers who were new to the journal were a little bit intimidated by all of the information they were being asked. So we've really slimmed that down here on the registration page. And I will just quickly fill this in. Put just a few there. Put in my email. Put in a username. Very secure password. And then I've got a question at the end. Would I like to be a reviewer? If not, I can just hit register. But if I'm interested in doing that, I can say yes. And it brings up an opportunity to add some reviewing interests. So there's scholarly publishing. I can pick that. And I could add more. But I'm going to hit register. Oh, that one's already taken. I tried this earlier. I can quickly change that. But you can see the error message right at the top lets me know what the problem is. Let's try that again. Haha, that's better. And I'm dropped onto a page that thanks me for registering and asks me what I'd like to do next. And I've got a few options. I could look at any submissions. I can make a new submission. I could edit my profile, or I could continue browsing and look at go back to the reader interface. I wanted to just show you the profile though, because that will do two things. It'll show us where we can add more information about ourselves as a new user, but it'll also give you a look at the new backend of OJS 3 that looks quite a bit different from the reader interface. And we made this separation for a couple of reasons. On the one hand, separating the backend from the reader interface makes it much simpler to customize that reader interface. You don't have to worry about all of the information associated with the editorial side, the administrative side. You can just focus on the look of the reader front end for making those customizations, CSS changes. The other advantage of changing the back end and the front end is that if you're, say, an author who writes for different OJS journals, or if you're a reviewer who reviews for different OJS journals, you'll have a consistent experience when you're working in this back end. It'll always look the same. The reader interfaces can all be customized and look different, but it'll be consistent when you're going in to do the work. And consistency there can be very helpful for helping you learn the system. I won't go through all of these and answer all of these, but just to give you a sense of what's here. The additional fields that used to be a part of the standard registration, like your salutation, your gender, are now here as profile options. You can change your email. You can add a mailing address. You can see what your roles are, your reviewing interests. Under the public tab, you could add a profile image, your bio statement, a URL if you have one, and there's your ORCID ID that could be added. You can change your password, you can change your notifications. So it's a nice way to be able to have control over your own information within the system. I'm just going to go over here now to the left side, to submissions. And you'll see on the submissions page, we're on the My Queue tab. Then there's nothing under My Assigned or My Authored. And this is we're going to look through this a fair amount during the webinar, but this is how we've structured the back end now. For an author, it's quite simple. There's not a lot they can do here. It's mostly focused on their own submissions. You'll see when we log in as an editor, this is significantly expanded, but the idea is largely the same. Let's take a look now at what it would look like to make a new submission. We'll quickly run through one. I can just choose that My Submission button. And some of this to OJS2 users will look familiar, but you'll see how we've tried to change it up a little bit. So the selection of a section is still required. There's that submission checklist that we've had. And I'll show you on the back end how you can still customize that. And if you wanted to leave any comments for the editor, you could put them right here. There's your privacy statement. Save and continue. Now we're going to upload the submission. And this introduces some fairly significant changes. The first thing you're asked to do is select an article component, and this is new for OJS. Hopefully you'll be able to see my drop-down box. And I can select an article component, and examples are the article text, a research instrument, research materials, data sets. So OJS is asking you, well, what kind of file are you uploading? And we'll say article text. You can imagine this is the main body. Oh, I've got to report that the things in that drop-down might not be shown in the webinar. It was just a list of possible components to choose from, like article text, data sets, etc. Now I'm going to upload a file here, and I can just drag and drop something from my desktop. And that's brought it up, and I can continue. If I wanted to change any of the details that are in that file name, I could just hit edit and make that change, but I'll continue. And then on the final step, I'm just being asked to add another file if I've got more than one. This is another major change in OJS 3 from OJS 2. Previously, you would have the one main submission file, and then you'd have an opportunity to add sort of second-class supplementary files. Well, at this point now, you can add all of your files at the same time, identifying them with that article component concept as to what they are. This one, if you recall, was the article text. But if I wanted to add more files for my data sets, if I had images, anything like that, I could add them here. I'm going to keep it simple for this and just complete. And now you can see what I've got here. That looks good. Save and continue. And here's where I can put in my metadata. I can put in a separate prefix here. A study of versions. And there's even an option for a subtitle if you had one. And it'll automatically put the colon in between. In my abstract. And I've got a list of contributors, and I'm there by default as the author. But I could add more contributors if I had co-authors using the Add Contributor button. We'll just jump past that for now. And I can add some keywords. By typing them in, pressing enter, it turns them into separate keywords. There would be other forms of metadata that would be available that the journal has the option to add, but I've chosen to keep it simple for now. But I'll show you how to add other metadata options in a few minutes. Finally, just confirmation. If everything looks good, I can hit finish. And I will. Am I sure? Yep, I'm sure. And I'm done. So it is a relatively quick process. We've tried to slim it down and make it simple for authors to encourage them to use the system. And again, I've got the options. What do I want to do next? I could take another look at the submission. I could create a new one, or I'd return to my dashboard. And I'll just return to my dashboard now. And you can see here now, under my author, there it is. And it's in the submission stage. So that's the very first stage of the editorial process. So now it's just up to me to sit back and wait to hear back from the author. Now with OJS 3, it operates the same as OJS 2. On the point of making the submission, an email was kicked out to the appropriate editor or section editor to let them know that there was a new submission, and they could log in and take a look. And so let's do that now. Let's take a quick look at this from the perspective of an editor. Now there's a lot more going on because I'm the busy editor and I've got lots of submissions to deal with. And this is a good opportunity for us to take a look at the back end in a little bit more detail. You can see how it's similar to what the author saw, but again, with lots more going on. In the very upper left, we can see our journal's name. This is the only journal on the installation, so there isn't anything else. But if there were 3, 4, 5 journals on this installation and I was a user in all of them, I had a role in all of them, I could use this as a drop-down to move between the different journals. I'm working in English. If this was a multilingual journal, I could use this to switch over to French, Spanish, whichever else was part of the journal. I can use the View Site button that'll take me back to the reader interface. And then under my name, I can view my profile again that we saw for the author if I wanted to make any changes to the information about myself, and of course logging out. Down the left side, you'll see a number of options. Right up at the top are tasks, and you can see a 1. Let's take a look at that. A new article has been submitted to which an editor needs to be assigned. So tasks are new things that have happened within the system that you need to know about, that you're somehow involved in. So as the editor for this, I know that I need to work on that. We'll come back to this in a moment. Down below are submissions, and that's the page that we were on where I can control all of the submissions. Issues is where I can manage my future issues and back issues. Settings is where I can manage all of the journal and various website workflow and distribution configurations. User management is here, and tools provides me with some tools for importing and exporting and for statistics. I should also point out that you'll see on every screen a little help tab over here. And if we check on that, it'll take us specifically to a section that we're looking at on the page. That. My queue in the middle is where a lot of the action is happening, whether they're submissions that have come in that are unassigned. There's no section editor assigned to them. Any of the submissions that are assigned to me, oh, there's the new one that just came in. I'm a section editor for that section as well. And if there was anything that I'd authored. Let's take a look now at the submission. Again, you're going to see some changes here from OJS 2, but at the same time with some things that are a little bit familiar. You'll remember in OJS 2, there were also multiple stages of submission, review, editing as well. We've broken those down just a little bit. We still have submission, we still have review, but copy editing right here is now a separate stage. And we've got a stage called production, where the galley files are produced and scheduled for publication. And we'll quickly take a look at each of those stages. Something that's popped up now that we're actually looking at a submission is along the top, this blue bar, where we can see the metadata for the submission. Click on that, the section, there's the title, there's the abstract, the contributors. I could make changes to any of those. There's also an identifiers tab where we can add a public URL identifier and we can see that the DOI has been assigned. Oh, it's a little test there, a little note that it's unresolved. Editorial history, where we've got the history showing up, and we could add some notes as well to communicate with other editors. And there's also a submission library where we could add different documents that would be relevant to the submission. And this would be basically a shared library of documents that all of the editors could have access to. So rather than having them on somebody's computer or using something like Dropbox, you can have an internal library of documents. So let's take a look at the main body here. We're on the submission page. There's our submission file. That was the one the author uploaded. If the author had uploaded more than one, those would all be listed here, but we've just got the one that we're going to work with right now. And within this stage of the process, we need to decide as the editor what we're going to do with it. And we've got some choices. Right below is a pre-review discussion. And this is a major new feature in OJS 3. A lot of the communication is going to be had and stored through these discussions. So let's try this out. I'm going to add a discussion with the author because maybe I've downloaded that file and I've got a question that I want to get answered before I make a decision about whether we're going to even consider this for review. Add discussion, and it brings up a box. I've got my own name in there because I need to be part of the discussion. But I'm going to add user. You probably didn't see that drop down, but it brought up the name of the author because that person's the only one who's available, the only one who's participating in this submission at this point. And I'm going to ask a quick question. My question. I've got the option to attach a file if I wanted to, but this is just a quick one. I'll say OK. And there it is. You can see that it's displayed here in the pre-review discussions. The author's gotten an email notification that the editors asked them a question. And if the author were to log in, they would also see the discussion here, and they would be able to reply to it. And we're going to see this in all of the stages moving forward. Something that you'll notice off on the side to the right are some action buttons here. And you'll see action buttons in each stage. Here, I can send it to review if it looks like it's ready for consideration. I could skip review altogether and send it right to copy editing. Or I could decline it if I decided that, I wasn't happy with what I saw, I didn't feel like it fit the focus and scope. We can just move that right into the archive. Underneath that is also the participants list. This is also new to OJS 3. This gives you a quick look at everybody who's involved with this submission. And right now it's just me working as the section editor. Through as we add copy editors, as we add layout editors, other people who get involved, their names will also be added to this list and will be available for these discussions. But let's move it forward. Let's say send to review. It's taken that file, it's put a check mark next to it. If there were, again, multiple files that the author had uploaded, they would all be shown here, and I'd have the opportunity to uncheck them if I didn't want them included in review. But let's just send that off. And that's automatically moved us onto the review stage. We're in round 1 by default, and we've got a notification letting us know that we're waiting for reviewers to be selected. Down below that, we can see the review files. These are the ones that have just been moved over. And that's kind of like our inbox. And you'll notice that every stage kind of works like an inbox where new files come in that need some work. The work takes place, maybe there's some discussions that happen, and then when the final step of that stage is completed, they get uploaded down at the very bottom, and then they can move on to the next stage. So at this point, we want to add a reviewer. We'll quickly do that by selecting Add Reviewer. We've had lots of people sign up as reviewers. I'll just pick one of them quickly. Select Reviewer. You can see the message that's going to be sent to them. This is similar to how OJS 2 worked. The important dates are highlighted. The files to be reviewed are available here. And our review type is double-blind. And we'll say Add Reviewer. So that reviewer's been added. We can see the notification. We can see them listed in the reviewers panel. And we can see that a request has been sent and a response is due on the 28th of September, which is 3 weeks from now, which was set in the internal settings. Now, I'm not going to, in the interest of time, we're not going to go through all of this, but I did just want to give you a sense of what this looks like. You can imagine that the reviewer now has gotten an email, they log in. Much like the author, they've got a very stripped down view of the interface, but they can go in, do their review, make their recommendation, and then as an editor, I'd get notification of that. I could see that it's perhaps to accept, to decline, revisions required, and then I could make my decision. So let's jump ahead and take a look at these action buttons. Request for revisions, resubmit for review, send to copy editing, decline. I'm going to just send it to copy editing, which is an acceptance of the submission to move on to the next stage. Again, we've got a window popping up with a message. Our decision is to accept the wonderful submission. We can put in whatever text to customize it. If there were any attachment files, we could add attachments, but I'm going to just record that decision to move us on. Oh, I think I missed a step there. Let me go back. No, that's fine. Because I'm fast forwarding it here, my file isn't appearing in draft files. But if I was going through the whole process, I would now have a new file that had had the revisions made that would appear here. So again, take a look at the interface in the middle, and you'll see again that concept of an inbox work and an outbox. The draft file would be what needs to be done by the copy editor. The copy editor could have some discussions with authors, with the editor. And then when they've made their copy edited changes, again, as in Word, as in OJS, they would do that in Word outside of the system and upload it here. Let me show you. I don't think I've shown you yet how to add someone. So you can see the notification is to assign a copy editor using the add link in the participants list. I'm just going to go down here and do that. And I can add, I can check the different roles. And I've got one copy editor, Graham. Let's take a look down here. There's some choices within my messages. Copy editing request. That's the one. And again, like OJS 2, an email template comes up with a set of instructions, and I'm going to say OK. Graham now gets an email letting him know that he's been asked to do the work and can log in. And you can see in the discussions, there's that message that just got sent. Once Graham does his work, this would then move on to production. Again, we've got an email that comes up. We could hit record editorial decision. And that moves it on to production. And again, in the same way that we added a copy editor, we could now add a layout editor who would have some discussions with the author, have some discussions with the editor, and then upload the galleys. I'll quickly show you what that would look like. So for example, maybe we'll just keep it simple with a PDF. This is an English PDF. Save that. Now we're seeing that similar upload window coming up. What's the component? It's the article text, and I can drag and drop it here. Go to my desktop, find a PDF that I'd created outside of OJS, hit continue. Yep, that name still looks good. Continue, and then I could add additional files if I wanted to, but we'll keep that simple. And now we've got a PDF. As with OJS 2, in OJS 3, at this point, creating that PDF is still happening outside of the system. So you take the Word document that's gone through review, it's gone through copy editing, and then you would make that into a PDF using Acrobat Reader or some other software. We are in the midst of working on an XML project that would do an automatic conversion of a Word document into XML, which could then be easily turned into PDFs, HTML, EPUBs, other formats. That's not part of OJS 3 yet, but it's something that we're continuing to work on and are close to having a beta of. So again, keep an eye on our blog and you'll see news of our XML converter coming up very soon. And we believe that that's going to be a significant time saver for you, and it will especially help you move into other formats beyond just PDFs. We saw how nice XML renders using that eLens viewer. With a tool like this, we're really hoping that more people will start to publish in XML and be able to take advantage of things like that reader. All right, so we've got our PDF here. If we had HTML, we could add another galley. If we had EPUB, we could add another galley, but we'll keep it at this. And now all we need to do is schedule it for publication. Hit that button, and this is similar to OJS 2. Do I want to put it into a future issue, my current issue, a back issue? I've just got the one for now, so we'll save that one. I can add my page numbers here. I can attach permissions. So in this case, it's a CC BY license. Author retains copyright in this journal. You could change that. We'll see that in the settings. And I'll save. My DOI has been assigned automatically. And it's in the issue. Now, if the issue was a future issue, it would be ready for consideration for publishing. This one was already published, so it's now available in the table of contents immediately. So that's a really quick overview of the new editorial workflow that we've added for OJS 3. Again, I'm not seeing the questions and answers showing up that I was hoping would work as part of this. But if you do have questions, put them onto the forum. Again, forum.pkp.sfu.ca. And remember, there's the test drive journal as well that you can experiment with. Details for that are on the website. I want to take another look just at a bit more of the interface before we wrap up the webinar. One of the things that we saw over on the sidebar outside of submissions was issue management, settings, users and roles, and tools. One of the things that you may have noticed is that I'm in right now as an editor, and I've been working with the submissions. And if I want to now go and change a journal setting, I don't need to change my role. I don't need to then go to change out of being an editor, change into being a journal manager, and then make settings changes. Those are available for me right here. And we think this is going to be a great time saver for you, just in terms of going back and forth within your roles. But we can see right here under settings for journal. And there we are. We can quickly make changes to our masthead, our contact information, and our sections. And this is all possible because I'm enrolled as a user who is enrolled both as an editor and as a journal manager. But no need to switch between those two while I'm doing my work. You'll see a lot of things similar here on this first page, where I've got my journal name, journal initials, a journal summary, scroll down. Here's a big change though. Right now in OJS 2, if you want to create your editorial team on the masthead, there's some configuration options, whether it's to have the system do it automatically by the names of people enrolled in different roles, or whether you want to create different containers and then add people to that container. We've simplified all of that, and we've just given you a text box, and you can fill that in however you want to. It makes it much simpler. There's no configuration settings to have to work around. Similar for About the Journal. We've just given you a big text box, and this will appear on the About page. So there's not separate fields for what's your open access policy, what's your copyright policy, who are your sponsors, creating entries for different sponsors. We've really tried to strip it down and simplify it and give you more control over how it'll appear on these pages. Save that. You'll see the notification, lets me know my changes have been saved. Over on contact, there's my mailing address, all the information you'd expect. And there are sections, and sections can be created. Create a new section, we can reorder them, and we can see the ones that we've got right here. Something that we haven't looked at yet, but is a common part of the new OJS 3 interface, are these little blue arrows. You may have noticed those in some of the other sections. They're used quite extensively. And if I check one of those, it'll often reveal something like an edit link and a delete link. I don't want to delete this one, but I'm going to just click the edit button to let you see what this looks like. Again, pretty similar to OJS 3 in that there's a title, there's an abbreviation, a section policy, and then details, whether you want to limit the word count. Review forms are also part of OJS 3, so you can continue to use those, and various details, and of course the ability to add a section editor to this section. So watch out for those blue arrows, because those are revealing a little bit more information for you to work with. That was journal settings, website settings, and this is where you can modify the appearance. You could upload a logo, you could add information to your page footer, and you can choose a theme. Right now we're just using the default theme that ships with OJS 3. There's some typography options. You could change some of the fonts very easily, and you can experiment with those to see what they look like. These are all using web-based fonts, so everybody will be able to see them if you make those as selections. And there's also a color picker. You saw that by default it was blue at the top on the reader interface. This lets you change it to any color you'd like. This is a quick example of how we're trying to add some customization features. You also have the option in the themes to add a Bootstrap 3 base theme. This requires grabbing the Bootstrap plugin and installing that. We'll see plugins in a moment. But once that's available, you'll have a whole list of themes to choose from. I'm just going to quickly go there, save my change, do a quick refresh. And if we go down now, there's all of these Bootstrap themes that you can choose from. By default, when I'm finished this webinar, I'm going to set this at the paper theme, the paper Bootstrap theme. So when you take a look at the demo journal, you'll be able to see that theme. But for now, I'm just going to go back to default. The test drive journal that you can log in and experiment with also has these theme options available. So check that out if you'd like to have some hands-on experience with using that. Yeah. Saved. Similarly, I can upload a style sheet. I can move things into my sidebar or move them out as you could in OJS 2. Homepage image. You can add a favicon that would appear up here in the browser URL window. Any additional content you could put in here. So this is similar to what you've seen before. And a thumbnail for your journal. This is useful if you are on a multi-journal installation. When there's a display of all the different journals, you can have a little thumbnail image next to each one of them. Let's save that. Other things on website setting, information. These are the very familiar for readers, for authors, for librarians text that you can modify. Archiving for locks. Language settings, this is just English, but we could add more languages. And then to determine which is primary, whether it's used in the UI, whether it's available as part of submissions, whether it's available in the setup forms. So it lets you customize that. And here's all of our plugins. Plugins are an important part of OJS. They continue to be an important part of OJS 3. There's 2 tabs, the installed plugins, and these are all listed here. And these are all going to be familiar for you from OJS 2. Not all of the OJS 2 plugins have made it over to OJS 3 yet, but as we gauge the demand for the different plugins, we'll be modifying those and bringing those over. And the plugin gallery is still a bit of a work in progress, but this is going to be a way for external developers to contribute plugins, and they can be made available for you to decide to install or not. So watch out for more developments around the plugin gallery coming up soon too. And of course, there's still announcements as you had in OJS 2, and they work much the same way with announcement types and different announcements. All right, workflow settings. There's a few things here that I really wanted to show you because I think they're important in how you can make the journal work best for you and the readers and authors and reviewers that you're working with. This is a list of default article components. Now remember when we uploaded a file, there was a drop-down that we had to fill in that indicated what kind of article it was, what was its component. And these were all of the things that were in the drop-down. I don't think you could see that drop down through the screen sharing, but I promise you, those are all there. And I picked article text. This is an opportunity for you to customize these. If you know that you're just never going to have research instruments, you could go to that blue checkbox, toggle down, and delete it. If you wanted to add a new one, you can make a new one. You can change their order. And then if you make a whole bunch of changes and change your mind, you can hit restore defaults and bring these ones all back. But this allows you to have a pick list that best matches the needs of your journal. Jumping over to submission, author guidelines, very familiar. There's our submission prep checklist that we've always had with OJS that you can modify. Notification of submission, so you can put an extra email address in here to make sure that person gets notification of new submissions. But I wanted to show you this as well, the submission metadata. Remember when we made our submission, the only choice we had for metadata was keywords. And that's because that's all that's checked here. But in fact, you've got all of those many different metadata types that were part of OJS 2. The coverage, the language, rights, source, subject, type, disciplines, on and on. This was in response to some feedback that we've been getting from many people that the choices of metadata were too overwhelming, both for authors and for some editors who just didn't want all of these as part of their journal. So now you've got control over those. So your choices are enabled, and these are all unchecked. Now let's go to subject. And if I enabled subject, my articles can now have subject as a metadata type. But I haven't checked submission form. And that means when an author makes a submission, they won't see subject. So this is going to be up to the editors to fill in or to ask the authors to do it at a later stage, maybe once the article, the submission has been accepted and the authors are a little bit more invested in working with you and adding more details. So we could keep that off, or we could check it, and now the authors are going to see it at the point of submission, so they're going to have another choice to make. So this is all just a nice way to let you have more control over your journal and how you interact with your authors, especially on that first visit. Save that. Review. As well, a lot of this is familiar. This is where you can set your review deadlines, where you can set your automated reminders. This is where you can create your review forms, competing interests, guidelines, all of these things are very familiar to you. You can indicate whether you're going to be using double-blind, blind, or an open peer review process. Remember that publisher library? So that's where you can have the shared set of documents. Here's an example. There's a marketing plan, and that can be shared amongst all the editors, and they know they've got one place to go. Maybe you're having a meeting, you're going to have a marketing meeting. Everybody go grab the marketing plan, take a look at it. You know you can get it out of this shared library. And emails. What do you want to appear in the signature of the emails that go out by the system? There's that bounce address that's always been part of OJS. And then here are all of the prepared email templates. And again, just like when in OJS 2, you can open these up. You can make the decision to edit it and change that default text. Whoops. So that works exactly the same as you saw before. And the last one is distribution settings. Let's take a quick look at those. This is where you can set up your search engine indexing, determine some access controls. This one's open access. We don't have the subscription module moved over to OJS 3 yet, but that's something that we're also looking at for an upcoming version. At this point, it's just going to be open access. We do have the payments module making its way over so that you can collect payments. These could be for things like donations, for example. And once the subscription plugin does come over to OJS 3, it'll rely on these payments. And what are your permissions? What's your copyright notice? Is your copyright year based on when the issue was published or when an article was published? Who holds it? Is it the author? Is it the journal? And what license do you work with? And there's, I won't use the drop down, you can't see it, but there's several different CC licenses that are available, as well as if you're not using a Creative Commons license, you can select other. And that would indicate that you're not publishing with Creative Commons. So those are the settings there. In the few minutes we've got left, I did want to take a look at users and roles because there's some important things that you'll want to see over here. I'm going to go to users. Oh, yes, I can do that. And from here, I can see all of the users that are registered on my site. I can search throughout this when it's a long list. I can add a new user using this button. There's that blue little arrow on the side. I can drop down if I want to edit a user, disable them, remove them. So all of the user management is available here. Let's take a look at roles. This is something that's new with OJS 3 as well. You now have a lot more flexibility around your roles. Let's look at the journal manager, for instance. If I go down to my toggle, I can edit that, and I could change the name. So if I really wasn't happy with journal manager, I could change it to something else. Journal editor, do I want to change that to some other name? Do I want to make it just editor? I can use that edit button to make those changes. You can see along the row that I can determine what stages within the workflow that role has access to. A journal manager doesn't need access to any of them because they only work in the settings, but a journal editor needs access to all 4 of them. If we go down and look at a copy editor here, we can see that they only have access to the copy editing stage. So if you were to create a brand new role, you could say which of these stages they actually have access to. Let me just edit copy editor, because in addition to what stages they have access to, you can also set their permission level, and that lets you know how much they can actually do on the system. So the copy editor is set at the journal assistant permission level, which means that they can go to their copy editing stage, they can create discussions, they can upload files, they can download files, but that's pretty much all they can do. If you gave somebody the permission level of journal manager, they would be able to go in and see all of these settings. So when you create that new role, it's important to pick the right permission level. Next over, just our site access options. These are these restrictions on the site if you need to be registered and log in to view it, etc. And at the very end, tools. We've got some import-export tools that have been moved over from OJS 2, and some changes have been made to those to make them work in the new system. And statistics. This is where you can see the different reports that are all showing up here. And you can even customize your own report. This is very detailed level of data you can draw out of your database. I don't have time to go into that now, but this is the kind of thing that we're going to be working on, different tutorials as part of PKP School. So watch for those as well coming up over the next few months as we develop the videos for that, because we'll be having a new OJS 3 course, hopefully out before Christmas. All right, go to tasks. I've got 2 tasks. Looks like somebody submitted another article. Excellent. Thank you for submitting that as a good example of how tasks can continue to grow. Let's see here, I'm going to go to my submissions list. All right, and that's it. It looks like I wasn't able to see any Q&As that you were adding. Unfortunately, there was something going on with this Hangout on Air that wasn't showing those. I apologize for that. But I hope that what I was able to show you highlighted the changes that we've introduced in OJS 3. This is a whole new platform for us to work on. There's still lots of things that we're looking forward to adding to this, but all the new developments and features can be done on this new platform. So we're really excited about it, and we're looking forward to seeing plugins that are contributed externally by folks out there, as well as themes. We're hoping to have a bit of a theming community develop as well. So we're looking forward to seeing more of that. If you do have questions, again, use the forum. It's forum.pkp.sfu.ca, and we'll respond to those questions there. But otherwise, thanks very much for watching, and we hope to talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.